Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the 1.73 Mission Over Measure podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Get TPA Fit. Please visit gettpafit.com to learn how you can delete chaos, earn more, and build a valuable business that supports your mission. So today's topic I wanted to dive into with my dad. Some that I've been thinking about and honestly struggling with is the idea of being busy versus being productive and what the difference is, how you can be more productive than you are busy. So, Dad, thanks for hopping on again and helping out with hopefully others' issues, not just my own. And yeah, thank you. So I'd like to get started. Being busy, being productive, right? What does this mean? Well, let's define our terms first. So what does being busy mean? And what does being productive mean?
So they get confused on a regular basis. And Henry, you're not the only person that may be running into challenges, not just distinguishing the two, but being able to leverage one versus the other. So consider this. I did a little homework before our conversation today. I wanted to find like very specific definitions and then give you some ideas on how that applies. So consider that productivity is the rate at which meaningful outcomes are produced relative to the resources consumed to achieve them. So what is it? It said really simply, and I want to put it into a math formula. So if you write down the word productivity, then the equal sign, valuable output divided by resources used. So in other words, it's like when you think of in the financial world, the business world, we talk a lot about ROI, return on investment. So how do we get the highest return on the lowest or most effective investment? Our productivity should be looked in the same way. Like productivity is maybe another version of ROI, because really what it relates to is like our time, our energy, money, relationships, knowledge, physical effort. But one other kind of component that's in terms of like the resources used that's wildly important, and this is where I see this a lot, is attention. So like how much attention is something capturing? That's different than focus. Maybe that's a different conversation, different podcast, like the difference between focus and attention. But the bottom line is, if you make clear promises, you have focused execution, meaningful outcomes, strategic thinking, and deliberate action, those are probably more characteristic of being productive versus being busy. So an important question to ask yourself when you think about, am I being productive, is what am I accomplishing? So when you maybe find yourself in situations where I feel overwhelmed, I feel overloaded, my calendar's super full, is just to pause for a moment and ask that very simple question. What am I accomplishing? If it's not a lot, but you seem like your time and attention, energy is being consumed a bunch, it probably means you're more busy than productive. So let's define busy now. It's the state of having one's time, attention, or energy actively taken up. On the surface, that's not a bad thing. Like we can be busy doing a bunch of things where our time's invested in a particular activity or conversation, relationship, our attention's there too, our energy's taken up. But what happens is when our time, attention, and energy are actively taken up, but it's minus the result or minus the desired outcome, that's when we might find ourselves busy. So let's put this again into another math equation. So if you write down the word busy equals capacity consumed divided by total available capacity. So what that means is our time plus attention plus energy plus mental bandwidth, those are the things, the capacity we have available to us, but like how much of that's being consumed. I find when I'm more productive than busy, there's actually a lot lower input of those things, time, attention, energy, mental bandwidth, and the outcomes are more desirable. They're better. So that, again, another kind of, we want to observe what's what the results are of our activity. So some characteristics of busy, because I want to make this as real as possible. So think if you're in constant activity. I know one thing that to-do lists can be effective if we put the right things on a to-do list, but a to-do list can be really dangerous because what it has us do is when we have a whole list of things we believe we need to do, then it leads to frequent task switching or reacting to the list, reacting to all the stuff that we've written down. If I've got a really full calendar, I don't have space, I don't have bandwidth in my calendar, that's another indication I might be bordering on busy and simply feeling overwhelmed. So those are the things to be looking out for. Like the question about being productive, what am I accomplishing? A really important question to ask is, how much am I doing? Highly productive people do not appear busy. Very busy people frequently don't appear very productive.
That's interesting. Are there moments where the line between busyness and productive can be blurred? Like, could you give an example of something that maybe in your experience you felt was productive, but it was actually being busy, and maybe that line where, oh, it's just simply I'm spending a lot more time and it's busy versus it is productive, but it was taking a lot of time. Like, have there been moments for you where that line has been a little more blurred?
Absolutely. One example or experience that comes to mind immediately is, so when we launched the business, I met with hundreds and hundreds of people. So I put it in a sales context. We wanted to build a client roster. Well, we did a pretty good job it took some time, but we filled up our client roster. And the challenge was there were still prospects, still people we'd been speaking with that were not making a decision or thinking it over. And what we found was I was putting a lot of activity into my calendar for like following up. And I got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm feeling overwhelmed with the volume of phone calls I'm making, the emails I'm sending, even the requests for meetings that were happening. And what I realized was, you know what? This is busy work. Like, this is not being productive. So made a decision simply that we're going to decline a number of meetings that were not specific to interested people in what we had to offer. If somebody was not enough pain or discomfort and not committed enough to move forward with us, then we just needed to excuse ourselves from that conversation, from that relationship. We've effectively ended up declining more meetings than we accept. We end up not chasing people who aren't ready to make a decision. I mean, we have technology we use to nurture and continue to stay in contact, but it's not by me, right? It's not activity that I engage with or that the team engages with. And it was just a realization where we needed to be as active as possible when we were first building this business. We built it up to a point where we didn't need to be as active, but we kept believing that activity was going to get us to the next level. And what we've learned more than anything is that a lighter calendar is a better indicator of productivity than a full calendar.
Yeah, I would imagine that it would be hard to do all that work, feel like you're active all the time, you're putting all this time, energy, and effort into, and then you reach a point where, and actually to continue growing, you need to scale all of that back. It would seem unnatural, and that kind of leads me to my next question, which would be, why do you think business owners, companies, they're proud of the fact that they're busy all the time? Is it still because they're still kind of lashed onto, well, time and energy, the amount of time you do equals your productivity, when instead they've actually hit that wall where they need to scale it back in order to grow?
That's a great insight, Henry. We see it on a regular basis, not just in business, but in life. Think of the last time you caught up with a friend, you hadn't spoken to them in a few weeks, a few months, and you asked them, how are you doing? What do you think one of the most popular responses to that question is?
I'm good.
Or
How
I'm
are you?
busy.
You're busy?
I'm busy. Like at least in the business world, like how are you doing? I'm busy. So there's kind of two reasons. The first, I point to that there's a cultural status symbol that's been formed. I'm going to translate it this way. If you're busy, it must mean you're important. Now, where that originates, I'm not quite sure. My opinion is that from a very young age, when we got into school and we were asked to learn multiple projects or multiple disciplines, multiple topics, subjects, and we were tested on all those, our retention, not necessarily our knowledge, but our retention of that information. And that we were required to get A's. The ideal was we get A's in all of that. So you have this massive amount of material, massive amount of information, and like you've got to score in your retention high on all of that. Well, you get the A, you're good, you're smart. And if you don't get the A's, well, you're something else. I wonder if it originates out of that. Like we've got this belief, like we have to excel at everything. That's the connection I want to make between, I guess, my perspective on school or learning this cultural busy perspective really early in our life. So then it translates into our adult life where we're not in school anymore. Many, if not most of us, are not in school, but we're running businesses, we're running communities, groups, teams. And what we realize is like, if we don't pay attention to it, it's like, oh my gosh, that cultural status symbol is spilling over into my life where I believe that busy means importance. It's absolutely not. In fact, it's almost the opposite. The second reason, this is the nasty one, so I apologize for anybody listening or watching, avoidance of accountability. If you're busy, you're effectively releasing yourself from any accountability of being productive. In other words, producing outcomes. I'm too busy to produce the desired outcome. Or here's the goal for the team for the quarter, and I'm off track. Well, I can't get to it because I'm so busy. It's literally one of the most popular excuses that I hear from professionals that just allow them to not do the work, do the difficult work, perhaps the deeper work, the work that's going to take more mental capacity, more energy, more thoughtfulness to produce the desired outcome that the organization is seeking. So all of that being said, I think there's a cultural status symbol that we've all potentially fallen into that trap. The very personal one, though, is the avoidance of accountability. It's an easy button. Like if I'm busy, then I don't have to be accountable for that result.
Yeah. And it's not just the 1.73 talking.
Right. Well, I was too busy to study. I was too busy to do homework.
Yeah. Yeah. How do I phrase this question? Because this is something that I've been wanting to figure out. It's like, how do you decide? So we have our productivity, we have our busyness, we've distinguished what those mean. How do we then frame our day? Because in the day, that's actually where we're getting stuff done. How do we actually set up our day to be doing the productive work over the busy work? Like how do you decide what deserves what work? Is it just simply, oh, I'm going to cut out all of my busy work now? Or is it like, how do you go about framing up your day so it's focused on the productive work?
Each one of us needs to find kind of a routine or a rhythm that works for us. Where I've landed, and I recommend to all of the owners and organizations that we work with, is pick a day during the week where you can take 90 minutes to 2 hours to it's an appointment with yourself. It's a very intentional time. It's actually a weekly planning session that you have with yourself. Mine is every Sunday morning from 5:30 a.m. to 7. That may be too early for some, might be too late for others. You might say I'm crazy that it's on a Sunday morning. Well, that's just a time in my life where the world is completely quiet. I don't have any obligations whatsoever. It's literally the cleanest time in my calendar. What I do during that 90-minute block of time is I plan out the entire week based on the longer term results I've promised. So in other words, I'm not reacting to whatever comes up this week. That's a trap that we fall into frequently. I mean, I find myself falling into that trap as well. One of the things that's helped me prevent that from happening frequently is by being proactive in my planning. So I plan out the entire week based on the results I've promised. I book appointments in my calendar for the coming week to work on those projects or handle those tasks based on what I need to do this next week. And I look at it this way, there's only really 3 things I need to get done, 3 important things I need to get done any given week. So if I get those done, if I plan for them and I get them done and it's on Friday, great, it was a terrific week. If I plan for those and I get them done by Wednesday, that's awesome. That's a great week as well. There's the idea of Parkinson's law, where projects and tasks will expand to fill the time you've given them. So one of the reasons why I use kind of this strategy, if you will, weekly planning is I want to compress what I'm going to accomplish based on my long-term goals into a 7-day time frame. Book appointments with myself. And I just simply stay away from planning out my day. It's just too short a time frame for me. Plus, I love walking into the office or walking into a client meeting already knowing, like I'm already prepared, right? Because I've already allotted that time. It's helped me eliminate a myriad of surprises, which means I spend a lot less time reacting to the current circumstance of the day and a lot more time responding to the things that I've said that are most important. So today's just, it's too short a time frame. The week works for me. I think the month is a little bit too long. But again, if we have a longer term goal and I know I can accomplish a certain part of that milestone of any goal over the course of 7 days, that Sunday morning planning has been probably one of the best habits or routines I think I've formed. It's just allowed me to never react to my week, but to respond to what's important.
Yeah. And I know this is something that we've talked about a lot, but you set a goal and then you work backwards from it, right? And it's always, I mean, before I started kind of using the same systems you do, and just the mindset is, it's hard to actually put that into practice where, okay, I have my goal, I want to do XYZ, but then if I walk backwards and go to today, how do I slowly accomplish that goal? And so breaking it down week by week, taking a little chunk off that goal every single time is that perfect way to accomplish that goal a little bit at a time. And it may not seem like you're moving as fast as you want to at times. It's like, oh, I only got a little bit of this done. Because I feel like going back to, talking about school, I mean, maybe this is more so myself, but the procrastination in me trained myself to just do everything at once, usually at the last possible minute, but everything at once. And so it just felt like I got this one big thing done at once. So making that change from getting everything done at the last minute, being fully a member of the Parkinson's Law Club, to then setting a goal and slowly accomplishing it over time was difficult, but it's so much more rewarding because it eliminates the stress. And that, I know procrastination, sometimes people do it for the adrenaline rush. That was not my intention, but it's so much more rewarding than that last minute rush to get everything done.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I've heard it said we can accomplish anything, we cannot accomplish everything. So how do you accomplish anything? Well, you take everything and you spread it out. And there's a couple of things I found happen when you do something like that. Number one, things you thought were important start falling out of that when you start actually expanding expanding the time frame out, giving yourself a longer time frame. Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach wrote a great book called The 25-Year Framework. And it's literally taking a look at it. Set a goal, set this massive goal 25 years out. And then you realize, if I'm doing my math correctly, you have 100 quarters, you have 190-day time frames in that 25 years to accomplish that massive goal. So that's where Parkinson's law would totally screw you over, right? It's like you wait 24 years and then you get to work on a 25-year goal. Like, forget it. That's no way it's going to happen. But if every 90 days you figure out what you need to accomplish, and 25 years is a long way out. So you might consider, well, let's back into what would be at the 10-year mark, what would be true, what would need to be true for me to reach that 25-year goal. And then 5 years out, and then 3 years out, and then 1 year out, what must be true. You start, it's like the nesting, the glass nesting Pyrex dishes, right, that you have in your kitchen, where the small one fits inside the next one, and it just keeps getting larger. It's like setting yourself up that way. So, what I've done is I've looked at it from a perspective of, we've set an impossible goal, a 10x goal in our business over the next 36 months. Well, that helped us define a very simple and very clear annual goal. It's not necessarily 33.33% of the 3-year goal, but it's like based on what would be a major step forward and would be an absolute contributor to our 3-year goal. This is what we're shooting for in regards to our annual goal. Then what we do, we break it down into this month. So what must be true by the end of this month that's progress towards that annual goal? That's when it becomes really easy to define those weekly priorities, because now I take that, we call them monthly sprints, right? Divide that by 4. What's the first 25% of that monthly sprint or goal that I need to get done this week? All of a sudden, it's like, there's 2 or 3 things that I need to get done for that monthly sprint that will be a step forward. You mentioned about procrastination, and that's actually been this whole Sunday planning, weekly planning based on a monthly sprint based on an annual goal based on the 3-year vision. Like, getting those things clear means that procrastination almost never happens any longer. So it's almost like we take procrastination out. Why? It's because you actually have a roadmap for every single week. Like, I literally walk in the office on Monday, I know exactly what I need to do Monday through Sunday. And then Sunday, rinse and repeat for the next week. It's just made it incredibly simple. And again, chopping up those larger projects into bite-sized pieces, distinguishing that those are the most important outcomes. Doing both of those things eliminates, not 100%, but about 89% eliminates busyness.
Yeah, and even taking it a step further, and you may have answered this earlier, but breaking it down to even the individual day in the context of talking about being productive around your goal, your bigger goals. Like, is there a specific time of the day that you should figure out when you're when you are most productive, and then kind of focus that energy on those things? Because I'm sure, as perfect as life would be, sometimes there are things that we just are busy around, and there's fires that we have to put out every now and again. So is it important to figure out a time of the day where, like, this is specifically I'm most productive during this time, this is where I should focus my energy on those goals?
For me, 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that's not to say that, at 12:01 p.m., just after the noon hour, I go to sleep. That's not what that means. I mean, some people might say that about me. It just means, like, if I need the real thinking time, the creative time, like, that's what works for me. For others, it could be afternoons, it could be evenings. Like, find the time where you are most creative or you're most productive, meaning you can produce the greatest result with the least amount of effort, going back to that ROI concept we talked about earlier. The other thing too is I know that's the most valuable productive time for me. That I've got to protect that time as well. So that's why the booking appointments with myself I found is so critical. Like literally use your calendar, put an appointment with yourself in your calendar. And, in fact, Natalie's she blocks off, well, I've asked her as my kind of chief of staff that runs my calendar, like block off certain days, like even for the course of like a whole quarter, a whole 90-day block, like those are days that are reserved. It's never the afternoons for me. It's always the mornings. And we don't schedule anything else. Like if somebody wants our time and attention, my time and attention, they won't get it if that time is already taken with an appointment. So this may sound selfish to some degree. I'd certainly advocate anyone doing this is be wildly selfish with your time, especially your productive time, because the results you'll produce when you engage in that time where you have that bandwidth of energy, mental energy, spiritual energy, you're not pressured by to-do lists. You will be wildly productive if you're able to create that. So for me, summary, 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. doesn't matter, 7 days a week. That's the time. It doesn't change on a Friday versus a Monday versus a Sunday. And then booking appointments with myself to protect it.
What are some other steps someone could take to kind of help the feelings of feeling overwhelmed or just in pure chaos all the time? Because those are really great examples. What are some other things people could do?
Start a weekly planning habit. For me, it's Sunday mornings, 5:30 to 7, 52 Sundays a year. It doesn't understand holidays. It doesn't understand other circumstances in life. It's 52. In fact, it's gotten to the point, Henry, where I'm emotionally confused and distraught on a Monday if I ever miss a Sunday for whatever reason. So we're on vacation. We're in Kentucky. We're in Ireland. We're here in Michigan. Like it doesn't matter. So the holidays don't matter. Location doesn't matter. Circumstances don't matter. Sunday mornings at 5:30 to 7, 52 Sundays a year is work. So find your time in your calendar, book it, and hit repeat for indefinitely. Like don't allow circumstances to get in the way. Second, use your calendar as your source of truth. In other words, this has been with family, especially, it caused a little bit of disruption when we first went about it, because not everybody uses their calendar like I've learned. Not everyone uses their calendar like I do. My calendar is a source of truth. If it is in my calendar, it actually exists in the world. It exists as a real entity, a real thing, a physical thing. If it is not in my calendar, it literally doesn't exist. Like a meeting could be happening, but not for me, because if the meeting's not in my calendar, it's as if the meeting never existed from the get-go. So getting yourself trained that your calendar is your source of truth, and getting your team in business or in a leadership role, like get your team trained that the calendar is the best source of truth in terms of what's important versus anything else that you could use. Third, be very cautious of technology that says it can help you be more productive. There's so much out there in the marketplace. If you went onto Amazon and you searched for saving time or productivity tools, I haven't done that search in a while, but my guess is it's more than 10,000, if not 20,000 titles would be the response. Well, what that tells you is there's plenty of resources. Number two, though, it tells you is that nobody's really figured it out, because people keep writing more and more books about it, or people keep coming out with more and more software systems or platforms. Here's the thing. Technology only warehouses your activity. It doesn't make the decision for you. You make the ultimate decision. So it's a matter of training yourself to be disciplined and committed to productivity versus busyness. Then you just find the tool that organizes your thoughts. Like for me, it's calendar is number one. A kind of a planning agenda, a format is number two. The time that you plan, like booking that time during the week, is number three. And then I do use, in our world, since we use Google Workspace as an organization, I just use Google Tasks because it's kind of, that is my to-do list or my activity list where I can get thoughts out of my head, not have to try to remember them. So I know they exist, they're there. Plus, I can actually assign myself actions and put it and have the action show up my calendar. So ultimately, that task or to-do list is actually represented in my calendar. So now I can actually move those tasks into time slots. I can't underemphasize the power behind a calendar and just booking time with yourself. And then lastly, I mean, I will not be how do I say it, stubborn or cautious to say, like, those of you listening or watching, like, we help clients with this issue all the time. So please give us a call. If we can help out, we'd love to help you. Share the ideas. I mean, I'm happy to share them. The more productive the business community can be, the more productive owners and founders can be, that creates bandwidth for them to spend time coaching, nurturing, and developing their team, which is one of the best ways for them to start moving away from the biggest problem, Henry, that we help with is reducing that owner dependency. And so if I tie that in, if you feel like you're overwhelmed as an owner and there's way too much that's depending on you, that means you're a very busy person, maybe not as productive as you could be.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. Please, everyone watching, listening, go to the links below, get in contact with us, connect with us. We'd love to talk more, help you get more productive and less busy. Dad, thank you so much for doing this. Once again, I know I found this extremely valuable, and even if I seem busy, just know that I did listen to what you were saying and I am working to get more productive.
Love it. Thanks, Henry.
Yeah, thank you. Everyone, please leave your thoughts down below. Give me some examples of times when you were busy versus productive. What do you think the difference is to you personally? We always go through the comments and read and respond. So thank you so much for listening, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Hey there. If today's episode hit home, it's because you know this. Your mission is bigger than any metric, diagnosis, or expectation placed upon you. At Get TPA Fit, we help entrepreneurs and leadership teams delete chaos, earn more, and build value so they can go from stuck to unstoppable in the pursuit of their mission. Visit gettpafit.com to learn how you can break through those measures and pursue your mission.